Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I hope to keep this one short, sweet, straight to the point. Every time I say that, it ends up like a 20-minute video. So we're going to try our best. I know I talk a lot, but I want to get into some price predictions, some ultimate scenarios that could happen this week with AMC stock. I hope you guys find value out of this video. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel before we get straight into it. So, number one, if you've not seen the last video, go ahead and watch it. That's a lot more in-depth of essentially what happened last week, what's going to be happening this week, things of that nature, as well as a little bit more just in-depth. Go watch that video if you have not done so already, and then come back and watch this video, or watch this video and then watch the last video. Doesn't matter. But long story short, this week, you could see some volatility in the markets. You could see the markets fall because Apple earnings were so terrible. And you did see a fear move on Friday. You did see a rush to safety, something that we have not seen in this market rally so far, that is pretty negative. And just on the size and scope of this, you guys should be able to understand this, even if you don't watch the bonds every day like I do. The 10-year treasury dropped 15 basis points. This means if you look at TLT, right, go ahead and pull this up. Again, like I showed in the last video, same thing. Literally, I'm reiterating the same information. During COVID, people bought the bonds because they were scared. It's a rush to safety. It's a flight to safety. People buy the bonds when they are scared. That's what happened back here during COVID for really months before the ultimate big COVID crash. Well, they've obviously fallen because people don't want to, own the bonds, right? So yields have went higher. Well, what you've seen on Friday is a fear move. TLT was up 1.77% in regular trading, up 0.06% in after-hours trading. One of the biggest moves that you have seen in months now to the upside. So, little bit strange. Someone might know something. If the markets do fall from here, I would not be surprised. Okay. After all, a correction is definitely far, far overdue. Now, what we seen on Friday with AMC stock was quite the opposite of what we seen in the broader markets. The second half of the trading day was quite negative for the broader markets. For AMC stock as well, you did see a slight pullback as well, but not to the same degree as the broad markets. AMC stock was green on a day where the broader markets and the S&P and the NASDAQ were down like 0.5%. And AMC was up 0.5% in regular trading, up 1.22% in after hours. Let me tell you right now, there's two things that could be going on here. Either you are seeing the effect of some of these FTDs being covered on and some bullish positioning. That's possible. Or someone knows something and they're positioning for it. And it's showing up as AMC being positive massively when the markets were red and there was a big fear move. Now, I don't know which one it is, right? I don't have a fortune teller. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. But I would lean towards someone might know something. We've talked about this in a couple videos now, and I find it this impactful that I need to say it in multiple videos. Some of the banks, specifically the banks, are doing some interesting things, like the Bank of Montreal. They basically sold out of their entire put position worth millions of dollars, and they increased their call position by 4,000%, owning exposure to 14.5 million shares of AMC. They increased their share exposure by 7,000%. I get it. If these were 20% decreases, increases, not a big deal. But 7,000% increase on their share position, 4,000% increase on their call position, and they sold out 99% of their put position at a time where you're about to get this big drop in AMC and the courts are going to rule in the favor of the shorts and basically the arbitragers. That doesn't exist. There's nothing you guys can say in the comment section that will change my mind that this is not a sign of something or significant. And I don't think I'm the guy that has the tinfoil hat. But when you see numbers like this, it's telling you something. Okay? So make sure that you are listening when things are telling you something. Barclays even. It's not just one bank. It's like multiple banks. Barclays, they sold out of their put position. They increased their share position by 52%. They did decrease their put position by about 20%, or their call position by about 20%, but they still own exposure to almost 6 million shares of AMC. So the banks that you haven't gotten the big US banks yet, which I find very strange. You haven't got your Citadels, you haven't got your BlackRocks or Vanguards or any of those filings that have came out so far. But the ones that you are seeing right now from the banks that have come out is very, very strange. Okay? And hopefully you guys can see where I'm coming from with this. So maybe something big is about to happen. Maybe not. Now, AMC does have earnings this week, and I think that's going to be a big story of what ultimately happens. The EPS numbers, none of this matters. Just for context, Wedbush is expecting negative 4 cents for EPS. Your average analyst estimate currently at negative 4 cents as well. Some estimate sites have the EPS at negative 5 cents. Anything between negative 5 cents and negative 4 cents is basically expected. If AMC comes in at negative 3 cents or worse than negative 6 cents, negative 6 cents or worse is going to be bad. Anything that's negative 3 cents or better is going to be really good. Now, if AMC did come out with positive EPS, that's going to be the biggest catalyst that you could see this week, and I would firmly expect AMC stock to rally 25 to 50% based off of that, because nobody's expecting it. Not one single analyst is expecting anything better than negative 0.3%, negative 0.03, which is negative 3 cents for EPS. Nobody's expecting that. Now, if EPS comes in line with estimates, which it typically does, sometimes it's a little bit better, sometimes it's a little bit worse, but if estimates just are right, the big thing is going to be commentary around the court proceeding. If AMC doubles down on this, we need to see the courts let this go through. AMC investors, we need this to happen, or we might go bankrupt. Things of that nature that we have seen or heard from AMC over the past couple of weeks now, well, might not be a positive thing for the stock. The stock could fall off of that. But based on what I'm seeing, and when you just look at the charts, maybe we're in for some really good news. Maybe we're in for a guidance raise from AMC. Maybe we're in for better earnings than expectations. Or maybe AMC just cancels this court proceeding. I think I'm the only one saying that this is a possibility. Now, I wouldn't hang my hat on it. I think it's a less than 5% chance. But if AMC did do this, that would be the ultimate checkmate to these short sellers. And that would be huge for AMC's actual share price. Now, in the event that AMC does beat on earnings, maybe comes in at negative 3 cents or negative 2 cents, it's good, right? It's positive. But and maybe the earnings call is good. Everything's good. There's nothing you could say that is really bad, or like 90% of things are good. Just a really good earnings. I would expect AMC could probably rally as high as $5.50 per share. I think this is going to be a level of kind of resistance for the stock. $5 per share is a level of resistance as well. You're currently at $4.99 per share. So granted, I think we'll break out above that this week before earnings. We'll ultimately see AMC earnings are on Tuesday and after hours. So if you don't have positioning now, don't worry. You can get your positioning on Monday. But that's kind of what I would expect. Not a crazy move, but that would be a rough move of about 12%, right? That pretty basic, kind of expected, right? If AMC has bad earnings, give you bad guidance, and double down that they need to raise capital or they're going bankrupt, well, the stock could fall back to $4.50 per share. I don't think there's a big range here. Now, I do think there's a possibility we do get news from the courts this week. There's obviously a possibility of that. But I think there's a greater likelihood that we do. And based on some of the 13F filings that we're seeing, based on the price action of AMC, I think it's a pretty reasonable assumption that we're going to get good news. 30-40% chance that we could get good news. Now, if the courts just outright deny this settlement again, they say, nope, we're going to open this up to shareholders at the very least. You're not able to do this yet. Then AMC would probably rally to about $6.50 again, $7 per share. Could go, obviously, as you guys seen during Friday of After Hours, AMC stock went to about $8.50 per share. That would also be a possibility on the higher end range. Now, the best outcome that you could see this week, next week, weeks after that, is if AMC canceled this by itself. If AMC said, guys, too much division, we're not going to fight a settlement with our shareholders or a lawsuit with our shareholders, it's fine. We'll raise capital a different way. Well, at that point, AMC stock would probably rally within subsequent weeks over $10 per share. You're talking 10, 20. This could cause that would probably be the best case scenario that could happen out of this whole entire deal for AMC share price at least. And the stock would probably rally to $10 or $20. Now, if the other alternative situation does happen and the courts say, okay, this new settlement is fine, we're going to let you do your, reverse split, everything you need to do, AMC, go ahead, do it. We've kept you waiting long enough. Well, this is where it gets interesting because I think you would get that initial sell-off. Yes, I think that would happen. And you probably fall down to about $4 per share, right? Down here at the lower end range. But then I think investors would realize this is actually good news for AMC because AMC is going to be able to raise billions and billions of dollars of capital. So I think even in the worst case scenario, there's still a bullish kind of light at the end of the tunnel for AMC and AMC stock. So you probably get that initial bearish reaction to maybe $4 per share, but then I think you would be in for the MOAS within the following weeks. Why? Because if you're a part of this arbitrage trade, you're probably going to cover on your short position, take whatever profits you have at the time of the announcement from the courts. That's probably what would happen. So at the same time the stock falls, you probably start to get some shorts getting out of their short position and the stock going higher. One big reason for this is because cost to borrow fees have been insane. If shorts could just get the stock down to $4 per share, I think they would be happy to cover on their short positions at $4 per share. Let's be honest. I don't think any short at this point that is playing this arbitrage trade really thinks AMC stock's going to fall to like $2 per share or $3 per share again. I don't think that's what they're in this trade for. I think they just want to minimize some of the loss that they have seen recently. Then I would expect as shorts do start to cover and as people do start to say, hey, this is very positive for AMC. What are we doing short? That is what could give you that big upside move. And I think at the very least, it's like what they say in Wolf of Wall Street. Even bad publicity is good because people are talking about AMC. There's attention on AMC. And I do think after that initial bearish reaction, you would get a positive reaction. So if that bearish reaction does happen, if we do get news from the courts, don't be dead set on that move. Let me tell you right now, don't be dead set on that move. It might fake you out the next day later or, a couple days later. That's honestly what I would expect to see. Now, all of this really thesis that I have comes down to the short interest, right, being so high. Why I think even the judge allowing the settlement to go through would end up being a positive thing for AMC is the simple fact of how many shares are sold short and the sticky situation, the tricky, terrible situation shorts are in right now. So if you look at Ortex, you got a short score of 93, $762.18 million worth of short positions in AMC, estimated short interest of free float at 30.07%, free float out on loan at 37.38%, shares out on loan 193 million, days to cover 8.15, cost to borrow 243% on a trailing 3-month average, utilization at 82.1. Now, if we take a look at cost to borrow fees from interactive brokers, 210%. Cost to borrow max 380%, cost to borrow minimum 8.6%, cost to borrow average 357%. Again, live short interest of free float at 30.17%. And 156 million shares that are currently sold short. AMC stock is still on the threshold securities list. As of the start of trading this week on Monday, August 7th, you are going to need to see 12.5 million FTDs potentially start to get covered on, right? And then you ramp up to 14.6 million FTDs coming on August 9th. For whatever reason, on August 8th, there is not any FTDs that come due, which is ironically the same day AMC reports earnings. So the next day, once you get the real reaction from AMC's earnings, well, that's when, things could get kind of crazy for AMC, right? So there you have that. Now, other things that could affect AMC stock as well. If we get good or bad news, if there's a reason for people to buy into AMC, to short AMC, the option activity, or really the lack of option activity, could also have a big role to play in affecting AMC stock as well. In total, you got about 98,000 calls on this option expiration and about 235,000 puts on this option expiration. A lot lower than even what we're seeing for August 18th. You got 1.2 million puts on this option expiration and about 500,000 calls on this expiration. So just look at it relative to what we have seen recently, and there is a lack of option activity this week, which does set you up for new options to head onto the option chain if there is a reason for people to load up on options, whether calls or puts, and that could also affect AMC stock. Now, on top of that, you're going to get some economic data. Like I said, you want to watch the bond auctions. That is going to be a big driver of the broader market move this week. And on Monday and Tuesday, you really don't have much. On Wednesday, you don't have much, but the big day is going to be Thursday. Core inflation rate month over month expected to be 0.2%. Last month's reading was 0.2%. Inflation rate month over month, your headline number, expected to be 0.2%. Last month's reading was 0.2%. Core inflation rate year over year expected to be 4.8%. Last month's reading was 4.8%. So these numbers look fine. I don't think the markets are going to react to these unless inflation came in hotter than expectations and showing an acceleration in your month over month trends, which is possible if you look at the price of oil. Some commodities have been going higher as of recently within the last month. Now, unfortunately, your month-over-month numbers don't matter to the markets. The thing that really matters is the year-over-year numbers. And your inflation rate year-over-year is expected to come in at 3.3%. Last month's reading was 3%. This is the base effects, right? So back in June, you seen the highest inflation rate. And then in July, it started to go down a little bit. So last month's reading came in at 3% year over year because you're comparing to a high and now to a low this time around. Well, now when you come down in 2022, down from June 2022 to July 2022, it's lower and you're still kind of right here. So that gap is just looks a little worse on a year over year basis. So that's why you're expecting 3.3%. If this number comes in higher than 3.5%, markets probably sell off 2 to 3% that day. If this number comes in at 3.3%, markets probably sell off 1% this day. Even the expectations, if they are met, you probably get a 1% sell off in the markets at least. If this number comes in at 3.2%, well, you probably get a flat day. If this number comes in at 1.1% or lower, you probably get a 1 to 1.5% rally. That's the way that I'm looking at this. Odds are, comes in maybe a little bit hotter, and you get a 0.5% down day or so. Maybe a 1% down day. Nothing too crazy. Which, I mean, it could string together to be something big pretty quickly. So we'll ultimately see. That's what we got for Thursday. Now, Now on Friday, you're going to get PPI month over month for the month of July. Best way to think about this, producer price inflation. It stands for producer price index, but it's basically the producer side of inflation. This comes in at 8:30 in the morning on Friday. You're expecting 0.2% positive. Last month's rating was 0.1% positive. And then you're going to have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday. You're expecting this at 71. Last month's rating was 71.6. So if this number comes in, higher, that's great. If it comes in lower, it's whatever, okay? The 1 year and the 5 year inflation expectations will probably be more important. The 1 year inflation expectations expected at 3.3%. That would be down from last month's rating at 3.4%. And your 5 year inflation expectations expected to come in at 3%. That would be unchanged from last month's reading. You know how Fed Jerome Powell always says inflation expectations are well anchored. He says that every single Fed meeting. If you've ever listened to one or two of them, you've heard Fed Jerome Powell say that. Well, this is one of the things they look at, as well as the 5 year break evens in the bond market. And everything's been fine, okay. So you want to see this come in fine as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for this week. Those are my possible outcomes for AMC and overall price target of different scenarios in which could affect AMC stock. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. If you guys want to come trade with me live in real time, linked down below in the description of this video as well. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.